Evening services are far less popular than they used to be. Once a regular part of virtually every church's weekly worship, they have gradually declined in frequency over the last few decades. And the finger of blame for this is often pointed at the BBC, who in the 1960s began screening episodes of the Forsyte Saga on a Sunday night. And according to the received wisdom, this was so popular it proved detrimental to attendance at Sunday evening services. That may well have contributed. It's interesting to think of television being so influential in the 60s. These days television is a lot less influential, but there are many other calls on our time or distractions that would seek to lead us away from attending worship. Having said that, it's worth noting too, I think, that evening services are a relatively new addition to church life when we take the long view. They only really date from the advent, first of all, of gas lighting and then, of course, of electric lighting. Before churches could be adequately lit in this way, there was no point in trying to hold service of an evening. They just didn't exist. They really needed daylight to take place. So evening services came along and became popular for a time. And I'd like to think in this short video about someone who was associated with evening worship, someone who wrote hymns for evening worship. And we'll come back to him or to his family in subsequent videos. But this particular hymn writer was a man called Thomas Hincks, and he was born in Exeter in 1818, and he died in Bristol in 1899. But he was a minister in our tradition, and his ministerial course took him from Cork to Dublin to Warrington to Exeter to Sheffield and finally to Mill Hill Chapel, Leeds. But he was educated first of all at the Belfast Academical Institution and then at Manchester College, York, and entered the ministry. He was also a very, very effective scientist. He published 48 scholarly articles in various scientific journals and wrote a couple of books in Victorian times which were very popular and important in their day. So he was a very skilled figure, a strongly intellectual figure, and also a hymn writer. But he wrote a hymn which was very popular in its day, certainly in our churches, a hymn entitled Heavenly Father by whose care. I'd like to read that hymn now. Heavenly Father by whose care comes again this hour of prayer. In the evening stillness we grateful raise our hearts to thee. To our spirits as we bend, peace and holy comfort send. Gladly we thy presence seek. Father, to our spirits speak. Call us from the world away, still our passions reckless play. On our inner darkness shine, bend our wayward will to thine. In this quiet eventide, may we all with thee abide. Own thy presence, feel thy power, through this consecrated hour, and from peaceful vesper prayer, purer, stronger spirits bear. So that was one of a number of hymns that Thomas Hincks wrote for evening worship. And of course, evening worship has a different feel and a different kind of ambience to our morning worship. Later, after he retired from the ministry at Mill Hill Chapel in Leeds, a member of the congregation wrote the following about him. All his friends can bear witness to his gentle courtesy and dignity befitting a Christian gentleman and scholar. To him was ever present the sacredness of his calling. Some can recall the pure melodious voice, others admired the intellectual noble head, the serenity of the beautiful face, which to them was Christ-like in expression. Many were impressed by his calm, persuasive, but eloquent spirituality, by his devotion to God, his uncompromising allegiance to the right, fearing not the opinion of men, but gaining their fealty, his strong attachment to the cause of Unitarian Christianity, although claiming perfect freedom for himself and for others. So we get a picture of this, I think, largely forgotten today, minister, very effective minister in his day. One of his memorials, it said, was the establishment of the mission church at Hunslet on the outskirts of Leeds. This book says, it is a memorial to his zeal and enthusiasm for the religious movement to which he belonged. So I mention Thomas Hincks because I think it's worth thinking about the quiet sort of evening worship that we do less of these days. It's also worth thinking about the Hincks family, because Thomas Hincks was a member of a particular dynasty of ministers, a family that stretched from Cork to Dublin to Belfast to Liverpool to Leeds to Canada and to Killilea. And in some future videos we'll have a closer look at the Hincks family and their contribution to our denomination.